Right through the 20th century, the latter half of the 20th century, we had the Milton Friedman philosophy that the sole purpose of the corporation, company in our language, is to make profit without deception or fraud. I add, at any cost. Because Milton Friedman, the great economist, did not accept that the company is a member of society. He saw it as an instrument for the creation and maximization of shareholder wealth. He was, in my judgment, wrong, because to make money at any cost, it's at a cost to society and the environment. And when you are making money in a manner which is at a cost to society and the environment, you're actually destroying value for society. I have for the last 30 years spoken about the three aspects in which a company operates, but the United Nations now call it the three dimensions of the economy, society and the environment. To give you a concrete example, I was for several years the chairman of the Frame Group of companies, which was a very large textile company. So if you look at a dye house of a textile company, it's huge machinery, easily the size of this hall. And when you've woven a piece of fabric and you're going to print the lines on my shirt and color them blue, it takes toxic chemicals. Now, throughout the world, as a result, there are regulations. You've got to have qualified chemists in your steam and dye house to remove the toxins before you put those chemicals to waste. If I'd removed those 11 chemists and removed the laboratory, I would have had less expenses. The monetary bottom line of the dye house would have increased, but the toxins would have gone eventually, this was in Durban, into the Tugela River. It would have destroyed fish, it would have destroyed plant life along the river. It cost the Durban municipality more money to remove those toxins before the water could be passed on to the citizens of Durban. And that, I concluded, was the free part of the free economy. When it came 1992, for the reasons I think that I was a commercial lawyer of many years' experience, I'd been a judge, I'd now been a director and chairman of companies. The Institute of Directors, the African Institute of Chartered Accountants, the Law Society, all got together, the JSE, and said, we need to have guidelines for the majority of our fellow citizens who had been excluded from the mainstream of our economy because of the unequal laws. And we were going into a country of equal opportunity, and yet there were no guidelines as to how to direct and how to manage. One thing was clear to me, that I directed the mind of my committee away from the primacy of the shareholder. Because in today's language, we would have come out with a guideline which was focused on white monopolistic capital. And it would have been indigestible to the majority of people in South Africa.
What do you see the challenge in the midst of what's perceived to be a leadership deficit? Every day we hear about corporate scandals, political challenges, radical economic transformation. Edelman Trust talks about trust barometer, a breakdown in trust, but organizations still seem to be the most trustworthy. What's your take on all of those things that are happening? How does one keep the moral high ground in the midst of all of this?
Our companies listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, certainly the top companies, are seen around the world as being the best governed in the world. They always ask me, how is it that the question of good governance, and King 4 has gone around the world, I always take them back to the fact that it was not genius on my part that developed the stakeholder-centric governance model. It was the special circumstances in our country at the time. I knew I had to steer it away from a shareholder-centric model and steer it to a stakeholder-centric governance model and focus on how the company made its money. Was it having a positive impact on society and the environment? Very interesting, this all led 4 years ago to the establishment of the Coalition of Inclusive Capitalism in London. It was Madame Lagarde of the IMF, Bill Clinton. I was privileged to be invited as chairman of the International Integrated Reporting Council. Great universal leaders of corporations, Paul Pullman of Unilever, Ratan Tata of Tata Motors, and the coalition of private capitalism was private capitalism was formed. What is this? What is inclusive capitalism? Well, it's moving away from the financial capital market of principal and agent, arising out of Milton Friedman's philosophies and based on the false premise that shareholders own the company, that principal and agent theory developed. Shareholders are the principals, the directors and the managers are the agents. Now, I'm going to assume none of you are lawyers, but all of you know that an agent has to take instructions from his or her principal. Now, that would mean you've got dumb directors. Now, to have a dumb director and to go to a board meeting fettered is illegal. You're committing a fraud on the company. And yet that was the principle on which companies operated throughout the 20th century.